always ask my clients, what's your biggest challenge in job search? Where are you having troubles? And truly, to a T, almost every single person says, well, I feel pretty good about my resume. I feel pretty good about what I can offer to an organization. But the trouble that I have is getting contacts. I mean, if I can get in front of all the right people, I know I'll get my job. How do you research potential employers? And once again, that's for most people. That's something that usually causes a lot of difficulty. They're not really sure, how do I start? How do I find these organizations that might be a potential employer to me? Well, once again, going back to that plan, we've already begun to identify what the parameters are. If you remember, it's those 4 items. It's the position type that we're wanting to go after. It's the industry type that we're wanting to go after. It is the location, where you want that position to be. And then lastly, it's the size of the firm. The library. I mean, something that a lot of people don't really think about nowadays because everybody just clicks onto the, onto the net or the internet. But the library is an absolutely amazing source of information for you. And they have a lot of directories of organizations and company types, and that's really where you want to start to focus, is on these directories. Some of the directories are very general, meaning they cover all different sorts of industries, all different types of companies. And some of those general directories, and you may have heard of some of these names, but one of them, probably the largest one, is called Dun & Bradstreet, so you may be familiar with that. Another one is called an S&P or a Standard & Poor's. But then there are also some very specific directories too that might be industry specific. For example, like the Polk directory, which if I'm not mistaken, the Polk directory is centered for banking. If you're interested in manufacturing, there's another directory called the Harris directory. And if you're an attorney, there's a Martindale-Hubbell. And there's others as well. But once again, there are some of the general type of directories that you can be looking at, but there's also some specific directories that you could be focusing on depending on what it is that you're looking for. When you're going to the, to the library, and I always advise this to people, I mean, you go there, you could literally spend a half an hour trying to find these different directories. Okay, where's that Dun & Bradstreet? Where's that Standard & Poor's? And you're bouncing around, and like I said, you're just wasting your time. What I would recommend to everybody, there are these little creatures that live in the library called librarians, and they live for this stuff. I mean, market research for most people is really, really boring. You don't want to do it. When you walk into the door, go immediately to the librarian table and say, hi, my name is Doug, and I'm looking for information on manufacturing firms in North Carolina. And they will light up with their eyes will light up. They'll say, okay, great, let's go. And they'll start throwing you directories. I mean, they'll literally point you, exactly where you need to go. And truly, within 5 minutes, you'll not only have made a good friend, but you'll also have, at your fingertips that information. And there's a lot of, sources on the internet that you can be using as well. Some of them are pay sites, but there are some free sites out there too. One of them is called manta.com, which is manta.com. Another one is called jigsaw.com, which is jigsaw.com. And then on top of everything else, with the library, and I'm going back to the library as you can tell, but most libraries now are, they have internet reference points that you can go to, so you can actually, if you will, visit your library online. I'm actually going to log on right now and do a very quick research for you, just using an example, just to show you how very, very quickly you can access this information. For this sample research, I'm going to use the parameters that I established in my step 1, which was going after a sales representative position in either the pharmaceutical or medical equipment industries in San Diego, and only looking at organizations that have sales of $25 million or more. I am now at one of my local library's online resources, and I'm going to fill in all the parameters and do the search based on the criteria that I had established before. And if you do recall, I was trying to emphasize how important those SIC codes are, because that is the universal coding of different industries. And if you'll notice on this first parameter, which is the type of business, it's going to ask me for those SIC codes. So for the pharmaceutical firms, the SIC is 2834. And for the medical equipment companies, that SIC code is 3841. So you just type in those parameters. You scroll down a little bit further. I was wanting the position to be located in San Diego, California, so I'm going to go to California, and then I'm going to choose the city of San Diego. And then the last parameter was I wanted organizations that had sales of at least $25 million or more. And it just so happens as I'm looking on this resource, I can't choose 25, but I can choose $20 million or more. So what I'm going to do is I now have all my parameters set, and I can just do the search. And here are my search results. I've got 443 companies that fit those parameters in San Diego. In fact, if you notice, there's 18 pages of them here. So you can scroll through all of these different organizations, and if you see an organization that you want to find out more information, in fact, here is Amylin Pharmaceutical, all you have to do is click on it. Here is the result page for Amylin Pharmaceuticals. Now at the very top there's the name of the firm, its mailing address, there's the telephone number, the fax number, there's even a link to its website, so if you click that it will take you right to their website. There was even a picture of their facility. As you go down a little bit further, there's a small description of the organization and some of the parameters listed. Below are the demographics. This particular firm, it's a publicly held firm. They've got 1,500 employees, 800 at the San Diego location. They do sales of $758 million. They were established in 1987. As you go down a little bit further, and this is going to be very, very critical, but there is actually a management directory here. So it has a listing of all of the executives and the managers within Amylin Pharmaceutical. Now, you might think that in doing your job search that you may want to pursue the Director of Human Resources, but you don't. In fact, human resources is the very last place you want to go to try to find a position within a company. And if you recall from my example, I wanted to go after a sales representative type position. So as I scroll through here, I can actually see who the sales executive is, or the VP of sales for Amylin, and that is the person that I want to direct my information to. Now I think you can see the power of doing this type of a job search as opposed to just looking at online ads or signing up with a recruiter or networking, because you are identifying specific parameters, the types of organizations that you're wanting to pursue, the types of positions, the locations, the sizes, and all of your results will very strictly adhere to what you want. So every one of these will be an ideal employer for you. And you've got the names, the addresses, telephone numbers, fax numbers, links to their websites, and once again, and most importantly, that management directory so you can get yourself in front of a decision maker within the firm as opposed to the human resources department. What do I want you to do? I want everybody here in this room to research at least 250 highly targeted organizations, of your specific target markets. And whether it's going to the library or whether it's using an online resource,